Man, I'm going to tell you what. I've had this weekend marked down on my calendar. I've had week 13 marked on my calendar. I was patiently waiting as the weeks went on. Oh, they're going to lose. They're going to lose, I bet. But no, Kirk Cignetti's team is ready. They're undefeated. They are 10-0, as my notes would calculate. They are 10-0, my friends. They are undefeated. Marching in to a showdown with Ohio State University. The Ohio State University. Sorry, my apologies, but the Ohio State University. Well, we're going to tell you something. I've marked this game on my calendar. I am hoping that this would come to this, and it has. I am so ready for this game. We are covering it. Let's get ready for a showdown in the shoe. Welcome to Pigskin Frenzy on this beautiful Tuesday afternoon, chilly Tuesday afternoon here in Central Illinois. Thank you for joining us. I'm Joel Norris, and whether you're watching on YouTube, listening on Spotify, listening on Podbean, or listening on Apple, a big thank you for taking some time out of your Tuesday to just sit back, watch, and listen to some college football coverage presented by me. Now, if you're watching on YouTube, subscribe to the channel, like each episode, leave comments down below. Spotify, Podbean, and Apple. All you got to do is just share around with others and follow on there as well. X and Instagram, just type in @Pigskin_Frenzy. Follow a lot of the pages there. You're going to get episode updates. You're going to get news and highlights from across college and NFL football. You're going to get trivia questions on Instagram stories. Go and answer today's college football question as well as all things up to date for Pigskin Frenzy. Guys, the website, www.pigskinfrenzy.weebly.com. There you'll find more and learn more about me as your podcast host. Home and About Me page. You can contact me down there below. Name, info, email, and question. I'll answer it off the show or on air if need be. There's also our platforms page. All the platforms I just mentioned were on there. Also, their store's coming soon. Affiliations, those are coming soon, and more. Big things happening on the website as we get ready for it, and big things happening for Pigskin Frenzy here in the near future. Guys, college football day today. I am so excited, and I am ready to rock and roll here today. Games that we have covered this past weekend. I went 4-0. By the way, I wanted to start off with that intro because I know that was week 13, but we're going to recap week 12 still. Don't worry. 4-0. You think I'm not going to recap week 12? 4-0 in my picks, man. I got all my games right. Pigskin wins and losses. That's what we're going to start calling it. Officially, we're going to start calling it that next season for Pigskin Frenzy, but unofficially right now, Pigskin wins and losses. My wins were pretty good. 4-0 here for Pigskin, and went four wins, 0 losses. Got all my games right. We're going to recap all the games that we covered, including one special group of 5 game that we did. Going to be fun. We're also covering another group of 5 team, but they're playing a Power 4 school in Army. We're going to cover that here in a little bit. Yeah, we're covering Army this week. That's crazy, isn't it? But Army West Point taking on Notre Dame. But covering week 12, we're going to talk about our latest set of Frenzy rankings. I'm excited about the shakeup. We're going to talk about the shakeup. A lot of debate on who we were going to put at 25, and we're going to talk about that here in a little bit. We're also going to preview and predict the top matchups for week 13. Excited about this episode. Jam-packed show. Thank you for joining us. 4,200 listeners, by the way, now, guys. 4,200. Thank you for just being a proud listener of Pigskin Frenzy, an avid listener of Pigskin Frenzy, and keep on plugging in, especially on the social platforms, man, on Instagram and X, @Pigskin_Frenzy. Please, please, please follow, like each page, and engage. I want to hear from you, and I want to keep building and hearing from you guys, especially. So big thank you and shout out to you guys for all listening. 4,200 listeners now. The numbers just keep climbing and climbing for this show. Also, big thing is we're going to have an honorable mention game. An honorable mention game. You probably already saw my tweet. If you follow me on X, again, I advise you @Pigskin_Frenzy on X. If you saw me on there, what you need to do, and here's what you need to do, is you need to listen to what I'm saying. We're talking about LSU, Florida, because that is the honorable mention game. We're going to discuss it, and we're going to discuss the struggles going on with LSU right now. Okay. After our Week 12 recap. Let's kick it off, our Week 12 recap, with Clemson at Pitt, because this was an interesting game, a very interesting game. And I'm just going to let you guys know now, I thought Clemson was going to win. I thought Clemson was the better team. They were. a little bit of a scare at the end, but they were the better team in the end. Final score, Clemson 24, Pitt 20. I expected it to be close, but I thought that Clemson was the better team, and I got that game right. Clemson 24, Pitt 20. We're going to have our circle moments. Let's talk about Clemson here for a little bit. Cade Klubnik was pretty good in this game. I mean, he was attempts and completions and efficiency, maybe not number-wise the best, but he came in clutch when needed, and that was the most important thing. 27 for 41, 288 yards, 2 touchdowns. He also had 10 carries, 41 yards, and a touchdown on the ground. Phil Maffa had 17 yards and 17 carries, 1 yard per play. Not the best on the ground for him, but let me go on and tell you something. Antonio Williams for Clemson was a baller. 11.5 yards per play, 149 yards, and 13 receptions with 2 touchdowns. He played really, really well. Bryant Westco Jr., 3 receptions, 61 yards. TJ Moore had 3 receptions and 39 yards. And Clemson's offense looked really, really good against this team. In the first half, they were good, 17-7. They had a good lead. And then Pitt ended up coming back. Pitt ended up storming back and playing with heart. And then Clemson had to figure out a way to fight back and score. It was 20-17. They ended up scoring. It was 20-17. Pitt was winning, and then Clemson ended up scoring with that big 50-plus yard touchdown run by Cade Klubnik, and Clemson ended up scoring and winning the ball game. Circle moments, and let me go on and tell you about the circle moments for this team. And that was one big circle moment was Cade Klubnik. Klubnik played good. He played clutch, and he came in clutch when they needed him. That was the big circle moment for Clemson right now. If you want to talk about another big circle moment, it was the efficiency on third down. I mean, it wasn't the best, but it wasn't great. It wasn't great, but it wasn't bad. 5 for 15 on third down. They were efficient on third down. They converted when they needed to, and they did really, really well in that area. If you want to talk about the negative circle moments, the negative would be letting their foot off the gas. I think Clemson has an issue with letting their foot off the gas. They've had an issue with letting their foot off the gas in a lot of games. They ended up winning those games, just like this one, but they let their foot off the gas in a lot of areas, and I feel like that's going to catch up to them in one game. Miami, and let's not talk about Miami. We'll talk about that here in a little bit for clinching scenarios, but that's a negative circle moment. A negative circle moment will be penalties. I mean, 6 penalties for 57 yards. The one turnover wasn't that costly, so we'll scratch that. But 6 penalties, 57 yards, not the greatest, but not bad. It just could have been a little bit more lower than what they had. So that's one. I would say the big negative circle moment will be the rushing. I think they need to run the ball a little bit more, run the ball better. 58 total rushing yards, not the best. Pitt didn't do that great either, but they outgained them 88. They're 58. So negative circle moment for Clemson on the ground for me. But I think Cade Klubnik was the real game changer in this one, along with Antonio Williams. Williams played really, really well in this one as well, and he was the go-to target for the Clemson Tigers on the road. They needed this win, especially to keep their playoff hopes and to keep their ACC title hopes alive. They are 9-2 now. 8-2. Excuse me, 8-2 rather. Clemson coming up this week has the Citadel. 3:30 Eastern, 2:30 Central kick. The Citadel at home against the Citadel, non-conference game. Here's what Clemson needs. Clemson needs to win out and needs Miami to lose. That's the ACC. And I would say they need SMU to lose as well, probably. But SMU just needs to beat Virginia, and then they're in. They clinch an ACC title game berth. SMU's undefeated in ACC play. And if SMU wins out, they're in. And this hurts Clemson. Miami needs to lose. Miami has one loss, and Clemson just needs to win out because that was their last ACC game. They have Citadel and South Carolina next Saturday. So those are their only 2 games left. Clemson really needs Clemson this Saturday. If you want to talk about, as I look up the schedule, Clemson is a Wake Forest fan and a Syracuse fan. They really are. If they don't lose to Wake Forest and they're a Syracuse fan, they are a Demon Deacons and an Orange fan come the next 2 weeks. Miami really needs to lose. Or SMU needs to lose to Virginia, then that's the whole thing, though. But in reality, Miami needs to lose. I think that's what Clemson's relying on, is Miami to lose their games. If they can lose their games, Miami will be a 2-loss ACC team, and Clemson will only have 1 conference loss to Louisville, and SMU will be undefeated, and they'll play SMU in the ACC championship. I think the likely scenario is going to be Miami and SMU in the ACC championship. But Clemson, their backs are against the wall here. They need help, and they are relying on Wake Forest and Syracuse to beat Miami. Tough spot to be in, really, but that's just the way it is when it comes to clinching and all that. So SMU is playing Virginia. I kind of expect SMU to win this Saturday and clinch a spot in the ACC championship this coming up Saturday against Miami or Clemson. But SMU is the number 1 team in the ACC right now. Everyone's going to say it's Miami. It's actually SMU. But they're hoping that something happens, right? SMU is hoping for a mess-up. I mean, Clemson is hoping for an SMU mess-up or a Miami mess-up, mainly a Miami mess-up, but they are rooting for other teams. That is a hard spot to be in if you are Clemson or another team in general. So, big thing there. Clemson, Citadel, they have a strong game, or a not-so-strong game Saturday in Death Valley for them. So, Clemson playing Citadel coming up. 3:30 Eastern, 2:30 Central on Saturday. 24-20, Clemson beats Pitt. Let's talk about Pitt really quick before we move on to the other games that we need to talk about. Pitt. Let's talk about a positive circle moment for Pitt. Holston was not the main guy. Nate Yarnell was the main guy for this team starting, and he didn't do bad. I mean, 350 yards, a touchdown, 1 pick. He was 34 for 54. It wasn't great, but it wasn't bad. If you want to talk about Desmond Reed had, he had 14 carries, 68 yards. He had 10 receptions, 108 yards receiving. Carter had 4 carries, 31 yards, and a touchdown on the ground. Williams in receiving had 7 receptions, 68 yards. Montfield had 5 receptions, 58 yards. This team on offense was doing everything they can to storm back in the second half and win. So I will admire the heart of this team for Pitt. I think that's where my positive circle moment comes in. They did not quit. They did not give up on this game, and they came back in the second half and played pretty well to make it a ball game, because Clemson was up on them by 10 and they were winning throughout the game and getting outplayed throughout the game, but they did not give up. They persevered in a lot of areas. Let me talk about the pot. That's a big positive circle moment for Pitt there. I think third down efficiency was very good, 6 for 18. Not the best, but not great. I think it was good and played in well enough to keep them in it. If you want to talk about time of possession, they outgained them in time of possession, 34 minutes to 25 minutes, but I guess time of possession does not mean everything, right? I think the negative circle, in the passing, 350 passing compared to their 288. Total yards, they had 438. Clemson had 346. Clemson was just more explosive, and I think this is where the negative circle moments come in. Pitt wasn't explosive. They didn't create big explosive plays, and I think that was a big no-no. Right in this one. If you want to talk about another negative circle moment, 2 crucial turnovers, a fumble and an interception. I think those are 2 big no-nos there. 13 penalties for 100 yards. Another big no-no and a negative circle moment for this football team there. I think 13 penalties for 100 yards is crazy. I mean, it's going to hurt you in a lot of losses. So 13 penalties, 100 yards, bro. 100 yards. That's pretty big. So huge hurt there. Huge hurting point, negative circle moment for the Pitt Panthers there. 88 rushing yards. Like I said, they outgained Clemson. 88 yards compared to their 58 yards. Outgained them by 30 more rushing yards total, but still not as effective. I think they need to be more effective on the ground in this one, especially. So that's another negative circle moment for this team. Pitt's out of it, but if you want to talk about a good bowl team and a good team that is could really finish with 10 wins, it could be Pitt. They could be a 10-win team this season. Pitt could. They got to play Louisville Saturday at 4 Eastern, 3 Central. They got to go to Papa John Cardinal Stadium, play Louisville, and then they got Boston College. That was their last home game. So they got 2 games on the road coming up next. And those are 2 crucial games for a 10-win season for Pitt. Can they do it? I don't know. Those are 2 tough conference games. But they have a shot at being a 10-win team this season. So good on Pitt. Good on Pat Narduzzi. A lot of people didn't really expect Pitt to be there at 10 wins, but I was wrong, man. Like I said, conference standing projections don't mean everything, I guess. They're just that. Conference standing projections. Keyword projections. There. So final score of this game is 24-20. Clemson defeats Pitt, and we head on. Clemson's got a solid game against the Citadel. Pitt's got Louisville Saturday. Let's see how these games both shake out for both teams. Let's talk about another game really quick. Let's talk about the Group of 5 team, Boise State and San Jose State, and then we'll talk about the other 2 games after that. So Boise State, San Jose State, interesting Group of 5 contest out in Northern California, Mountain West here. If Boise State wins out, they're in. If they do, but it really is going to depend to me on that Army Notre Dame game. That's going to say a lot Saturday. So a lot of them, everybody's talking about Tulane because the American Conference Championship is set. It's Tulane versus Army Friday, December 7th. Friday, December 6th. Depends on what happens, but I would watch out for Army. Everyone's talking about Tulane. Everyone's talking about Boise State. I would watch out for Army and Bryson Daly and what they're doing. We're going to talk about them later. Let's talk about this Group of 5 game, Boise State, San Jose State. I said that Boise State was going to win. I think that it was going to be closer. Maybe I don't think it was going to be 30. No, I said it was going to be like 38-17. So somewhat not close. I thought Ashton Jeanty was going to put on a good second half performance. I was right about everything, and I thought Boise State was going to come up with a win. And they did. Final score of this game was 42-21. Boise State defeats San Jose State. Boise State looked really, really good in the second half. It was somewhat of a sluggish start for Boise State, but they came through. They really did. They came through. They got turnovers when they needed to, and Ashton Jeanty created a big problem for San Jose State's defense, the Spartans' defense, late. Let's talk about Boise State in this one, and let's talk about the positive circle moments. Yes, Ashton Jeanty was obviously a positive circle moment. Strike the pose, Heisman. Him and Travis Hunter are the 2 top players in college football right now. It's not close. 32 carries, 159 yards, 3 touchdowns. He averaged 5.5 yards per play. That is insane. Maddox Madsen, to me, though, was pretty efficient in this game, and I think that's a big circle moment for me. 22 for 30, 286 yards and a touchdown. And also, he had 6 carries, 5 yards, and a rushing touchdown. So he had 2 total touchdowns. It's not eye-popping, but it's efficient enough to win ball games. Y'all have to start paying attention to Maddox Madsen. I think Madsen is doing really, really well, and it's looking like we're treading towards a UNLV Boise State rematch for the Mountain West. But look, Maddox Madsen does not get a lot of credit for running this team. He doesn't. And everyone's pointing on the offense towards Ashton Jeanty and I would too. He's a Heisman hopeful, best running back in college football. But Madsen deserves a lot of credit for how he operated this offense this past Saturday. He looked really good and efficient. He led them down the field for some good drives and created a perfect balanced offense so Ashton Jeanty could run the ball. 42-21, man, and this defense deserves a lot of credit too. If you want to look at it, they had 2 interceptions, fumbles, you name it. Their defense was, Amari and McCoy at corner looked really, really well. 11 total tackles. If you want to look, if you want to look at Devon Banks, 6 total tackles and an interception. If you want to look if you want to look at Tyler Bennyfield had 3 total tackles and an interception. They look really solid on defense. They played really physical on defense as well, and the Spartans had no answers in the second half. After scoring 21 points, they had no answers for the second half for that Broncos team. Let's talk about those with the positive circle moments. I think Madsen was a positive circle moment. Genty was as well. That defense was for sure. The defense played a really, really physical against a tough Spartans team that offensively at first was clicking on all cylinders, especially with a team that has the best receiver in the country in Nick Nash. So good on San Jose, good on Boise State's defense for just controlling that game. On paper, total yards, San Jose State had more total yards than Boise State did. Boise State had 456 total yards. San Jose State had 483 total yards. Passing yards as well. 446 compared to Boise State's 286. But rushing was the key. Boise State outgained them in rushing yards, 170 compared to their 37. Boise State was efficient on third down, 8 for 13, and they looked really, really good on that. The only really negative circle moment that I would think, they controlled time of possession as well, so very good for them. Only negative circle moments that you could circle down, click the pin, circle moment, 7 penalties, 35 for 55 yards, and that 1 fumble. That's really all I would credit to for Boise State in negative circle moments. They look like a really solid Group of 5 team. Right now, they're the highest ranked Group of 5 team. Even in my book, they are the highest ranked Group of 5 team now. It's all going to depend if that changes coming up Saturday. I think I'm really looking at that, pointing at that Army-Navy game, that Army-Notre Dame game. If Army remains undefeated and beats Notre Dame, upsets Notre Dame in South Bend, in Yankee Stadium Saturday night, that's really going New York. That's going to determine for me right now where the Group of 5 is. And Boise State right now is number 12. Spoiler alert for the Frenzy rankings. They're still there. Highest ranked Group of 5 team for me. But it's going to determine right now where Army's going to sit come this if they beat Notre Dame this coming up Saturday. Right now, Boise State looks great in the Group of 5. They are a solid team. Madsen's playing well. Genty's playing well. That defense is playing with an edge and a spark finally, getting turnovers, playing physical, and playing like they want to be in the college football playoff. So, all hands on deck for the Broncos right now. They are 9-1. They are heading towards a collision course with UNLV in a Mountain West Championship rematch. Wyoming is their next game Saturday, 7 o'clock Eastern, 6 o'clock Central Time. Boise State at Wyoming. That's going to be a solid game there. And then a, Black Friday game, noon Eastern, 11 a.m. Central kick between Oregon State. That's their remaining schedule. Wyoming and Oregon State are their remaining schedule. They should be 11-1 by season's end. Boise State should be, I would think. But let's just see. Final score of this game was 42-21. Let's talk about San Jose State really quick before we move on. San Jose State looked good in a lot of areas, I believe. Let's talk about Walker Eggett. Walker Eggett played really, really well. 34 for 50, 446 yards, 3 touchdowns. He looked really good throwing the football. He did have 2 picks, which was not good, but he threw the ball lights out. Floyd Chalk the fourth. He had 13 carries, 37 yards. The running wasn't all there. Nick Nash played well, man. Those receivers are balling out for the Spartans in the Mountain West. Nick Nash had 9 receptions, 126 yards, a touchdown, 14 yards per play. He's literally and statistically on paper the best receiver in college football right now. Nick Nash is a solid playmaker. He will probably should be a high pick in the draft, in my opinion, but who knows? He should be getting a lot of credit. Justin Lockhart, he looked well also. He had 172 yards, 17.2 yards per play, a touchdown, 10 receptions. Hurry had 3 receptions, 66 yards. Stewart had 4 receptions, 32 yards, and a touchdown. They look good. Those receivers look good. And let me want to tell you something. This defense didn't do all that bad either. Look, Jordan Pollard, he had 7 7 receptions. I'm sorry. Not 7 receptions. He had 7 tackles, 1 assist. He had 8 total tackles. DJ Harvey had 8 total tackles. Ward had 7 total tackles. Rahimi had 6 total tackles. This defense played physical for the Spartans in the first half. I think the second half is where they it all kind of blew up in their face a little bit. If you want to look at the positive circle moments, they converted well on 3rd down, 7 for 13. They only punted once, 483 total yards, 446 in passing. They look good in those regards. Positive circle moment. Those are the positive circle moments there. I think the negatives come in where they let their foot off the gas in the second half and they kind of blew up a little bit. The rushing was 37 rushing yards. They could not run the ball hardly at all. And a 37 total rushing yards there, not the best there. So if you want to look at the negative circle moments, that's one of them. Another negative circle moment is 4 turnovers. 4 turnovers total. 2 picks, 2 fumbles. They lost 4 turnovers, and the defense for Boise State snagged 4 of it. Not good for the Spartans there. And 6 penalties for 42 yards. So big no-nos there for San Jose State, and it kind of just blew up on their face a little bit. But San Jose State was a tough test for Boise State in the Mountain West. They played them hard in the first half, but Boise State just played better in the second, had the better team in the second half, and they just ran away with it. They just kind of let their foot off the gas a little bit as well. But this San Jose State team's got some talent. Walker Eggett, Nick Nash, Jordan Lockhart. This team looks solid in the group of 5. Nick Nash may go, but if Lockhart, Eggett, and all of these guys stay, they can try to make a slight run in the Mountain West next season. So let's see what the San Jose Spartans hold for next season. They're 6-4. They still got some stuff to play for. They can play for a 9-win season if they want to. San Jose State can. So all hands are on deck if they win out the rest of their games and play for a 9-win season. Maybe. It's going to be tough. They have Stanford at the end of their season. Both these games are on Friday, so 10 Eastern, 9 Central. UNLV's got to play San Jose State, so they could play for an 8-win season maybe. I don't know. UNLV's going to be tough. Then they got Stanford, 4 Eastern, 3 Central. Let's see what happens the next 2 games for San Jose State. But final score of this game was 42-21. Boise State defeats San Jose State in a tough Mountain West Conference game there. Let's talk about Arizona State and Kansas State, and then talk about Georgia, Tennessee before we go to our honorable mention game, because we got a lot to talk about there. Arizona State, Kansas State. It was a playoff eliminator and a Big 12 title game eliminator. I said Arizona State was going to win the game. I liked what Kenny Dillingham was doing with his team right now. I thought that they were going to run the ball good. They were going to start off fast and, blow them out of the water. And I was right. They blew them out of the water. At first, they did. Kansas State started sparking up a little bit of a comeback, but Arizona State ended up remaining calm, keeping up their composure, and ended up just winning that game. Final score, Arizona State and Kansas State. Excuse me if I can go back to my notes. Final score of this game, Arizona State 24, Kansas State 14. 24-14, Arizona State defeats Kansas State. Arizona State, man, and I told you, I ranked them last week. They weren't ranked last week. I told you, they need to be ranked. They better be ranked tonight on ESPN for the college ball playoff rankings, because in the Frenzy rankings, they're for sure ranked. Arizona State's no joke, man. They are in it. They are in it, especially after that BYU loss. They are for sure in it now more than ever. Arizona State's a solid football team. They're a dangerous team, man. And let me go on and tell you something. I was wrong about one thing. Cam Skattebo did not run to the best of his abilities. Even he ran, but not to the best of the abilities. But I'm going to tell you what. Sam Leavitt did really, really well. Sam Leavitt did really, really well. 275 passing, 275 yards passing, 3 touchdowns, 21 for 34. He ran the ball well, 42 yards with 5 carries. Cam Skattebo, 25 carries, 73 yards. Jordan Tyson at receiving, 12 receptions, 176 yards, 2 touchdowns. Mateer, 2 receptions, 19 yards and a touchdown. Cam Scatterby receiving had 44 yards and 4 receptions. So good on them. Levitt played a really, really solid game. This defense played really, really well as well. 2 interceptions they snagged. 3 turnovers they snagged, including 2 interceptions. This defense played really, really physical. Crook had 9 total tackles. Abney had 7 total tackles. Alford had 5 total tackles and an interception. Simmons had an interception with 3 total tackles. Rouser had 6 total tackles. McCullough had 6 total tackles as well. Pay attention to how physical this Sun Devils defense is, dude. They are playing great on defense and very physical football team. They're playing BYU this weekend. BYU just took a loss to Kansas. They're a 1-loss team, and they're still in the playoff and Big 12 hunt. I am covering this game. Spoiler alert. BYU at Arizona State. Another Arizona State game being covered. Pay attention to Arizona State Saturday and beyond. They're a dangerous football team, man. They looked really, really good against Kansas State. And Kansas State's a physical team. And they went into Manhattan in their place and kind of dog-walked them in the first half. They looked really, really good. Let's talk about the positive circle moment. Sam Levitt's play was unbelievable. He looked like a veteran quarterback out there, very composed, very calm, making good plays, lobbing up the football, getting big plays on third down, and they won on third down in a lot of areas. And Levitt was a big positive circle moment for this team. A big positive circle moment there. 9 for 15 on third down. They looked really, really good on third down there. Passing, 275 passing compared to their 258 passing. They didn't outgain them total yards, not by much. I mean, it was 412 Kansas State, Arizona State 398, but it was close. They ran the ball well, 123 yards, not like Kansas State did, but they ran the ball pretty well. Third down is where they got the most of the bang for their buck there. They 9 for 15. They looked really, really good. Those are my positive circle moments for Arizona State. Only negative really I can think of is the 8 penalties for 65 yards. They got to clean up those penalties for sure if they want to, win out. But they looked good in time of possession as well. 36 minutes for 36 seconds compared to their 23 minutes and 24 seconds on time of possession. 8 penalties is the only negative circle moment I had with Arizona State. That's really about it. They are a solid football team and dangerous football team in the Big 12 and for the college football playoff. I've told you about Arizona State. I said it on this show repeatedly that this team is a solid football team. I said it when they played Utah, that this team's a solid team. Kenny Dillingham has got this team ready to play. They're a surprise. I had them dead last, honestly, in the Big 12. In the conference standing projections, and now they're fighting now in November for one of the spots in Arlington. Okay, so that's how you know that conference standing projections they're just that. They're projections. This is a solid team. Arizona State, you must pay attention to them. They are a dangerous team in the playoff hunt and a dangerous team in the Big 12. Just like Colorado is, but listen to me on Arizona State. Do not forget about the Sun Devils. That's what I'm saying. Do not forget about the Sun Devils. 24-14 was the final score Saturday at 3:30 Eastern, 2:30 Central. They got BYU, man. BYU on ESPN, BYU at Arizona State. 3:30 Eastern, 2:30 Central. Tough game in Tempe. One of the biggest games of the weekend. Big 12 and college football playoff implications are at play here. Huge game. We're covering it. We're covering multiple games with playoff and conference championship implications here Saturday. This is why I love this time of year in football, especially in college football, because November is where you get contenders and pretenders are exposed and contenders rise up and true contenders rise up. So let's see what Arizona State does. I'm curious to see how BYU is going to respond after that loss to Kansas as well. Let's talk about Kansas State really quick and what went wrong there. Then we'll talk about Georgia and Tennessee, then LSU, because that must be talked about as well before we do our frenzy rankings and our preview and predictions here. So Kansas State, and let's talk about what happened there. First half, no answer. They were shut out. If I remember correctly, shut out in the first half. It was 24 It was 21-0 in the first half. And then Kansas State started marching a comeback, but Arizona State's defense just held up against Kansas State. Kansas State only scored 14 points in this game. I mean, I think it was just a tough game for them to manage. Avery Johnson, 24 for 40, 258 yards, 2 interceptions. DJ Giddens, 14 carries, 133 yards. That's a bright spot for this team. Avery Johnson had 6 carries, 21 yards, and a touchdown on the ground at least. Dylan Edwards, 5 carries, 5 yards, 3 carries. Joe Jackson had 4 carries and a touchdown on the ground. Cephas had 65 yards and 4 receptions. Spivey had 56 yards and 4 receptions. Brown had 38 yards, 5 receptions. Lofton had 32 yards, 3 receptions. It just wasn't really a good night offensively for this team. Defensively, they were going to get in roughshod as well. They had one good thing, and it was a takeaway. Big turnover for Kansas State's defense, and that was good. They needed that. But other than that, defensively, they couldn't find an answer for Arizona State's offense either. Arizona State, which just kept on converting on third downs. Their third down defense was tough for them to defend on third down, and Arizona State just kept drives going. They kept drives going, and they kind of got a little bit bullied on defense that night. Offense couldn't get anything going in the first half. They kind of got a spark in the second half, but it wasn't enough to spark a comeback and to win the game. Almost, but no, it was like so close, but no cigar, right? So the bright spots that were 7 for 13 on third down, they were really good at third down efficiency, but despite coming away with no points too. 7 for 13 in third down efficiency. They outgained them in rushing. 154 compared to their 123 yards. That's a good number to have rushing. I mean, they outgained them there. That's a good circle moment there. Circle moment for third down efficiency. Other than, and in passing, 258 passing, that was pretty much it. I would say the negative circle moments were defensively. They just couldn't get an answer going. They had 3 turnovers, 3 crucial turnovers to Arizona State, all given to them, and it was just tough. 3 turnovers. They lost time of possession, 23 minutes compared to their 36 minutes. They just drained clock, Arizona State did. And they had 5 penalties for 43 yards. Not the greatest, but not too bad. So we could scratch that one out. But the turnovers and time of possession just kind of hurt Kansas State in this game. It kind of really knocked them out of playoff and Big 12 title implications as well. So they've been removed. I thought Kansas State could have been in it with Utah. My whole Big 12 title game and has been busted. So Kansas State's out of it, but they still got a lot to play for, man. They're a 7-3 team. They can win 10 games, and I expect them to probably could win 10 games. They got Cincinnati and Iowa State. They got 2 tough games coming up. 8 o'clock Eastern, 7 o'clock Central Time, Saturday night against Cincinnati in Manhattan. Then they got to go to Ames, Iowa to play Iowa State next Saturday in their last game of the season. If they win those 2 games, they'll be a 9-3 team with the potential of being a 10-win team. A 10-win team at the end of the year, whoever they play in the bowl game. So Kansas State's got a lot to play for still, man. It's just really, really tough for them right now, to get back into it. A lot's got to happen for Kansas State in the Big 12 to get back into it. So I wouldn't rule them out completely, but they got to win out. Arizona State's got to, lose 2 more. And I would say Colorado, they already beat Colorado. So I would say Arizona State's got to lose 2 more, and I would think that Kansas State has got to win out, and Colorado would have to lose to Kansas or Oklahoma State. That's really it. They would have to lose those 2 games, or either both those games or one more of those games. Because head-to-head, they beat Colorado. So, final score of this game, 24-14. Arizona State's on a roll, man. Dangerous team. Watch out, man. Dangerous team. Dangerous team. Kansas State's got to go back to the drawing board and got to win out, and they got to play Cincinnati and Iowa State in their final 2 games. So, Arizona State, dangerous team. Watch out for them, guys. I'm telling you this right now. Let's talk about the last official recap, and that's Georgia, Tennessee. Then we'll talk about LSU because we need to talk about that before our frenzy rankings. Georgia, Tennessee. Georgia needed a bounce-back win. They are coming off of a tough loss to Ole Miss, bounce-back games. I could not pick against Georgia because it's tough to pick against them in bounce-back games. Tennessee needed a win to solidify themselves in an SEC championship spot. Georgia winning would just cause more chaos in the SEC and to try to clinch a spot in the SEC title game. It's looking like the winner of this game one of the spots could go to Tennessee, Georgia, Ole Miss, Bama, and then one of those and the other spot's going to go to the winner of A&M and Texas next Saturday. So Georgia needed this win, and they got it. I got that game right as well. 4-0 in all my picks. Final score, 31-17. Georgia defeats Tennessee. Georgia 31, Tennessee 17. Georgia is a team where you play them after a bounce-back game. You just don't want to play them after a bounce-back game, man. After they lose and then you have them on your schedule, it's tough to play against them because they always shine the brightest after a huge loss. And they did. 31-17, Georgia looked good. Carson Beck, and this is a huge circle moment, did not turn the ball over. I mean, that's almost a miracle at this point. Hallelujah. Carson Beck, 0 turnovers in this game. No interceptions, no fumbles, almost a fumble by the Georgia team, but they recovered there, and one got overturned, and then they recovered a fumble and won. So no turnovers. Georgia played good ball in this one. At first, Tennessee had a good opening drive, and they ended up, scoring a little bit more, but Georgia just looked good, and Carson Beck looked really good in this game as well. He looked focused. This is probably one of the ones where Carson Beck looked really focused. 3 total touchdowns. He had 347 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, 25 for 40. On the ground, he was 3 carries, 32 yards, and a touchdown on the ground. Nate Frazier, with Trevor Etienne being out, was the back. 19 carries, 68 yards, and a touchdown. Bowens had 7 yards carries and 7 yards and 5 carries on the ground. Humphreys had 63 yards, 3 receptions. Lovett had 59 yards, 3 carries. Oscar Delp was the main guy in this one. He had 56 yards, 4 receptions, 2 touchdowns, receiving. He looked good, and he was the main guy. Yursurek had 5 receptions, 51 yards. Arian Smith, 50 yards, 3 receptions. Tuggle, 25 yards, 2 receptions. So it is, and their defense played really well, too. Their defense played really, really well also. I think that was a huge thing, too. There's going to be a little bit of controversy with the penalties. We're going to get into that for Tennessee. We're going to get into that here a little bit. Their defense played well, racked up a bunch of sacks. I mean, Chambliss had 2 sacks. Walker had one sack, 8 total tackles. Mondon Jr. had 8 total tackles, 1 sack. Another sack. Wilson had 1 sack as well. They sacked him, if you want to look at it. I'm counting the notes right here. They sacked Nico Amaliava 5 times. The defense got to Nico 5 times in this game, and the defense was very physical, very hungry to play better physical football than they did against Ole Miss, and they were out with a vengeance in this game. Georgia looked like Georgia, how they did against Texas, and they looked like they were on a mission in this game. Backs are against the wall, bounce-back game. Georgia shines the brightest. This looks like a playoff football team. If Georgia plays like this, then they could win it all. I'm not saying they are going to and all this stuff, but they can be a team that wins it all if they play just like this. Solid football team and solid football and physical effort for Georgia. Positive circle moment. Carson Beck played really, really well. Probably played the best game he's played all season this past Saturday night. And he did. Another positive circle moment, the 5 sacks against Nico Amalia-Ava. That defense looked physical, nasty. Tennessee couldn't get a whole lot going on offense because of that defense. So the defense with the 5 sacks, another positive circle moment for this Georgia Bulldog football team. They ran the ball a lot better. 2 touchdowns receiving for Oscar Delp. They looked better on offense and a little bit more consistent on offense as well, and a lot less stagnant on offense. They moved the ball well. Another positive circle moment for Georgia. Passing yards, they outgained Tennessee in passing, 347 compared to their 167. They didn't outgain them in rushing. Tennessee had 152 rushing compared to their 106. But total yards, 453 Georgia, 319 for Tennessee. They were efficient on third down, 8 for 14 on third down efficiency. Another positive circle moment for this team, 6.4 yards per play compared to their 4.4 yards per play. Another positive circle moment for Georgia. On paper, more physical, more dominant on defense. They got to Nico 5 times. Recipe for a win in Athens. Crowd was pumped, and they looked good. They only had 1 minute in time of possession compared to their 30 minutes compared to Tennessee's 29. So pretty evenly balanced in time of possession for both teams. But only negative circle moment I would think of is 7 penalties for 59 yards. The penalties were not the best, so clean those up. But, I mean, other than that, Georgia looked like a national championship physical football team and a championship football team Saturday night. There's some things that they got to work on, but they looked pretty sharp Saturday. If they continue to play like that all season, this is a team that could beat Alabama, a team that could beat Ole Miss. I'm being serious. It could be a team that could beat Ole Miss and a team that could beat Alabama if they play like this. But they got to keep playing like this. They got to keep going and keep going. They just keep going, right? Georgia Saturday has UMass, 12:45 Eastern, 11:45 Central on SEC Network. UMass at Georgia. And then they got a night game on Black Friday, 7:30 Eastern, 6:30 Central against Georgia Tech. The final 2 games of the season. They have a shot at going 10-2 in this game and finishing with a 10-win season, finishing the regular season with 10 wins. So let's see what Georgia does. They looked really, really good and primed and sharp in this game. That's the offense that I've been wanting to see out of out of Georgia. That's the play I've been wanting to see out of Carson Beck all year, and we finally saw it. This is a playoff team. Pay attention to Georgia if they keep playing like this, because if they do, it's going to be kind of hard to stop Georgia. 31-17, Georgia defeats Tennessee. I don't know really who Georgia is currently still. They just have to play consistent ball. I'm afraid because last time I said this was against Texas, and then they started playing a little bit more stagnant on offense again, turning the ball over, and then they lost to Ole Miss, and it was kind of hard. So I don't know. If I can keep playing like this, though, they can win it all, but we just got to see. So I'm kind of skeptical, but Georgia 31, Tennessee 17 in this one. Let's talk about Tennessee really quick before we go back and do our honorable mention and frenzy rankings and the Week 13 preview and predictions. Tennessee here really needed a win here, but now they have to rely on Texas, I would assume. And I will tell you how Texas fits into this. One, because Georgia beat Texas, but I'm going to tell you how Texas fits into this. So, positive circle moments for Tennessee. And you're going to think, what's the positives? Well, Nico Amalia-Ava didn't throw any touchdowns or picks. So, I mean, the negative is he didn't throw any touchdowns. The good news is he didn't throw any picks, so that's good. He was 176 yards passing, 20 for 33, so not bad, but not the best because he didn't throw any touchdowns. But Dylan Sampson, 19 carries, 101 yards, a touchdown, 5.3 yards per play. He's going to get that. Peyton Lewis, the freshman back, 6 carries, 30 yards. Looked really, really good. Nico Amalia-Ava, 24 yards, 12 carries. Kesselman, 4 receptions, 46 yards, 11.5 yards per play. He had a touchdown on the ground early in the game. Brew McCoy, 38 yards, 4 receptions. Squirrel White, 45 yards, 6 receptions. No touchdowns, only field goals. Defensively, they played good. Brooks had 7 total tackles. Smith had 4 total tackles. Carter had 3 total tackles. Pierce Jr. had 3 total tackles. Carter, 4 total tackles. Gibson, 4 total tackles. The defense looked very physical, and they played physical. They played physical football against this Georgia team. They played really, really well physically. They just couldn't out-physical Georgia in this one, and Georgia's offense just kept going and going and going, and Carson Beck could not be denied in this game. Georgia in a bounce-back game is something different, and the unfortunate news was Tennessee had them scheduled after a loss, and Georgia, when they lose, backs against the wall. It's harder to pick against Georgia. I picked Georgia to win this game because I thought this was a game where Georgia can win, and they did. Tennessee, positive circle moments was that defensively they played physical and kept up that physicality. They just got out physical by Georgia. But that's good. That's a positive circle moment there. They played physical. A good circle moment for positivity right there. Positive circle moment, 152 rushing yards on the ground. Georgia still won because, the passing was just too dynamic. But 152 rushing yards on the ground, Tennessee did really, really well on the ground in this one. That's a positive circle moment. Another one, 319 total yards was pretty solid. Here's another one, 10 for 18 third down. They converted well on third down. Only missed 8. Third down efficiency, they were really good on third down. Converted on third down a lot. Very good positive circle moment against Georgia here defensively. If you want to talk about the negatives, the fumble, the crucial turnover, and the 9 penalties for 70 yards. Let's get into that for a second. I think some of those penalties should have been called on Tennessee. I think Georgia should have been called for more penalties in this game. I think Georgia got away with a lot of calls. I think that will it determine the outcome of the game? I do not know, but I think Georgia got away with a lot of calls in this game. I agree with that. I think Tennessee got screwed out of a lot of calls. I think that Georgia should have gotten more penalties in this game. I think that Tennessee should have gotten less because some of them were not penalties, and the officiating was horrible Saturday night in this ball game. I've already argued about the officiating. I've already said about the officiating that it's got to be, overturned. All this stuff that we need full-time officials. I've already said that in a few weeks back. Go back and listen to that episode with Georgia and Texas. But yeah, I think that the penalties were a problem. 9 penalties for 70 yards, but I think some of those should have been overturned, and some of those should have been given to Georgia. So I'm not really even going to classify that as a negative circle moment for this Tennessee team. Officiating was horrible in this game, but that's hearsay. Georgia won. Don't know if it would have changed the outcome, but who knows? I think Dylan Sampson played really, really well in this game. Here is how Texas comes involved. Tennessee's got to root for Texas to lose. I think maybe for SEC championship hopes, because they're not completely out of the woods yet. I think Bama has to lose. I think Bama has to lose again, and I think that Texas has got to lose to either Texas A&M or, I would think Georgia would have to lose too, if you want to be real. But I think for playoff hopes, Texas would have to lose because it could knock them out, and Tennessee would get back in due to strength of schedule and more credible wins. They beat Alabama, and they have a credible win. That's their credible win. It's Alabama, and I would assume if you look at their schedule, yeah, Alabama. NC State used to be, not anymore, but OU, Alabama's their credible win. Texas has a ranked win, but the Michigan win was so long ago now that it's not that credible anymore. So I would think Texas would need to lose. It helps Tennessee out a lot to get in it. If Texas can lose, or if A&M could lose, maybe, or if Bama could lose, but if Texas loses, this could probably help Tennessee out a lot, maybe. So that's where I think Texas could fit into it. I don't know. I may be wrong. Sound off on me if I am wrong, but I would think they would need a little bit more help to win. I think Tennessee's got a better credible win than Texas does. So, I don't know. That's how I think that fits into it. 31-17, Georgia beats Tennessee in a bounce-back game. They really needed that win to get their playoff hopes back into the mix. Tennessee going to have to rely on some help to get back into the playoffs and to, get in. So 31-17, Georgia defeats Tennessee, and Georgia gets a huge bounce-back win. Tennessee, this coming up Saturday, has UTEP, 1 Eastern, noon Central, and then they have Vanderbilt at noon Eastern, 11 a.m. Central next Saturday, next weekend, and the last weekend of the regular season for college football. So let's see how both those games turn out. That was the Week 12 recap, but let's talk about one more game, and let's talk about LSU and Florida, and talk about LSU and what's going on there. If you're watching me on YouTube, I'm scratching my head. If you're listening to me on audio, I'm scratching my head because it makes you want to scratch your head. In the swamp, LSU at Florida. LSU was favored by 3 because of DJ Lagway and the ability to run. Problem is, he didn't even run in this game because he was hurt with his hamstring. But it didn't matter because Florida still beat LSU. LSU dropped its 3rd straight game this past weekend because DJ Lagway threw the ball all over him. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about this. The final score of this game was, if I can go to it, if I can find it. I don't know if I can find it. I thought I could find it, ladies and gentlemen. I thought I could find it. Let's go to here on this one. Florida 27, LSU 16. This was the largest win for Florida against LSU since 2008. That was when Tim Tebow was there and I was a little boy, okay? So 27-16, 11-point win for Florida. LSU was leading at half. It was, I think, let's say 10. Yeah, 10-10. They were tied at half, 10-10. LSU had a touchdown taken away due to a penalty. And they kicked a field goal. And we didn't score any we didn't score any touchdowns, by the way. I don't think. No, we did. We did score a touchdown, right? I think. We scored a touchdown late. So it was LSU scored a touchdown in the second quarter. It was 10-3. And then there was field goals for the rest of the way. But LSU scored a touchdown, only 1 touchdown. They only scored 3 touchdowns. This is an interesting stat. I may pull that up here in a little bit. 3 touchdowns and 3 touchdowns since the Arkansas game, I believe LSU has had. But nonetheless, Florida just dog-walked them. They dog-walked them in the second half. They played really, really well. DJ Lagway threw the ball. DJ Lagway is an incredible quarterback. This may have saved Billy Napier's job at Florida as well. If Florida recruits well, and they recruit in the portal, and they utilize the portal, and they utilize high school recruiting well, and they build weapons around DJ Lagway, and they win and keep winning, Billy Napier will be able to keep his job at Florida, and he's turning the trajectory of that program around in year 4. So Billy Napier will be the head coach at Florida next season as well. And they have a tough schedule. The same schedule is tough for them next year as well. So we'll have to see what Florida's got. But they're about to be one win away from bowl eligibility, which they will achieve, and Florida will go to a bowl game because they're going to play Florida State, and they should beat Florida State. They're better than Florida State. So Ole Miss and Florida State are the last 2 games Florida's got. Florida played really, really well. I'm not taking anything away from Florida. Billy Napier, all praise goes to them because they played a solid game in the second half. If you want to look at if we can do positive circle moments, DJ Lagway, 226 yards, a touchdown. Jalen Baugh, 65 yards, a touchdown. Jackson had 37 yards, a touchdown. Elijah Badger had 131 yards, 6 receptions, and a touchdown, 21 yards per play on this LSU secondary. Unbelievable receiver was Elijah Badger in this game. And they looked good. Mizell, 3 yards. He didn't do much. But and here's the big thing. Florida's defensive line, underrated. 7 sacks. They got to Nussmeier, 7 sacks. Entering that game, LSU's allowed 6 sacks all season. That's all. That's probably one of the fewest in college football and in the SEC. Well, guess what? They put up 7 sacks against LSU's offensive line and and Nussmeier. This Florida's defensive line is insane. They are insane. They're very underrated. They may not be like South Carolina's, but they are underrated. Florida's defensive line is. So Jackson Dart and Ole Miss, this is a message. You have to protect Jackson Dart this Saturday. 7 sacks. Florida wins. LSU is struggling. That's my point. This is their 3rd game they have lost. If I can pull up LSU stats here really quick on my machine and all my notes. If I can find it. Well, we can start with this stat. And this is an interesting stat. 392 yards compared to Florida's 339 yards. Passing, 262 compared to 226. 130 rushing yards compared to Florida's 113. Inefficient kind of on 3rd down, 13 for 24. Not too bad, but they had less penalties than they did. They ate up time of possession. 41 minutes and 43 seconds compared to their 18 minutes and 17 seconds. 41 minutes. They Vanderbilt Florida. Vandy in Alabama, when Vandy beat them in time of possession, they Vanderbilt Florida Saturday. And LSU came away with 3 points at the very end. They did not capitalize off their drives. And they wasted clock, and Florida was more explosive, and they scored. So the mindset here is this on offense for Joe Salone and LSU. Sure, we're going to run the ball more, and they were effective on the ground. Durham was effective, so was Josh Williams. They ran the ball well in the first half, and until Florida caught on to it. But the thing is, it's not about, okay, let's run the ball more. It's about balance. LSU needs to balance it. Don't just, okay, we're going to run it? Sure, we'll just run, and then pass here and there. It's not about one thing or the other, and that is my point with Brian Kelly and Joe Salone's offensive scheme. We need to rely on running the ball more. Yeah, you do, but you can also throw the ball here and there as well. Balance it, man. Have a good mix of both. They ran the ball more than they threw. They threw statistically, they threw it a lot, and they did throw it a lot. But they ran in things where they didn't even need to run the ball in. It was not good. Play calling, not good. Brian Kelly took over a lot of the offense Saturday. Brian Kelly's seat is hot because this is a game they shouldn't have lost. This is their 3rd game in a row they've lost. This is a game that they shouldn't have lost. They have no shot at winning double-digit games now. That's out the window. The playoff, SEC hopes, both out the window against Alabama. Not only that, this weekend, they lost the ability to win double-digit games. So the program this season is not good under year 3. They said Brian Kelly said, and I quote, judge him year 3. A lot of fans are judging him year 3. Now, the recruiting class, the early signing period in recruiting is going to be good. Bryce Underwood is still committed to LSU as we speak. The number 1 quarterback in the 2025 class is still committed to LSU as we speak. If he is signed with LSU, he's got a good shot at starting, maybe even this year if Nuss decides to go to the NFL, and he has a shot at starting this year and beyond. The problem is you are recruiting good players. You can have a great recruiting class to outmuscle and be more physical than Alabama in these games, and be more physical than A&M in these games, and be more physical than Florida or Ole Miss or Georgia, whoever you play. The problem is coaching. Coaching, the culture, coaching. Lacey yelling at Kelly on the sideline, a player yelling at a coach. Coaches yelling at players in a way that you're not supposed to do, that you yell that, and it's not coachable. And so you're saying you're not coachable. It's not, they can't relate. They cannot relate to the coaching. It's not good. Culture's got to change. And Kelly said in the post-game presser that if people, they got to fight. If they don't want to fight, they can leave. It's hard to fight when you can't relate to your coach and you can't translate with your coach and the feeling is already just blah and dead. It's hard to sit there and say, okay, fight when we're already punched out. You know what I'm saying? When LSU's already punched out, it is hard for them to sit there and fight and fight and fight. I'm not saying Brian Kelly's getting fired, all this stuff. He's got a huge buyout. Obviously, we're not talking about that. But 2025 is a make it or break it year. It's a huge year. He's got Clemson to open up with. He has the same schedule with A&M in Baton Rouge, Alabama in Tuscaloosa, Ole Miss in Oxford. He's got tough games next year, and this is a make it or break it year. They are expecting championship ramifications. Everyone is saying we don't expect much out of LSU this year. Okay, yeah. But here's the deal. In 2025, media needs to change their tune on that. Media needs to expect something out of LSU next season. LSU is a top program in the country, hands down, with talent, with resources, with facilities, everything. They are a top program. And they're a 4-loss team when they shouldn't be a 4-loss team. Here's the deal. You didn't expect them to amount to anything this year. But in 2025, with the recruiting that they've got and the talent that they've got coming in 2025, you should expect LSU to do something next year. You should. Don't say, oh, I don't think LSU's going to do anything. And then, but we believe in Brian Kelly. No, that's not how this works. That's not how this works. If you believe in Brian Kelly to do something, 2025 is the make it or break it year. I'm slamming my hand on the table out of frustration because, and I'm not trying to point this at the media, but the media can't say, but we believe in Brian Kelly. They just got to recruit better and all that. And then make excuses about it. Yes, recruiting is great, and it's a big part of it. And you got to recruit better. You got to add more depth to your defense, add more players and skilled players, and have a game changer at quarterback. Garrett Nussmeier may not be the game changer at quarterback that LSU needs. Bryce Underwood is, but and they're going to have 5-star talent and players coming in from high school, and they need to utilize NIL and the transfer portal a lot better. Brian Kelly does, and if they do that and they go to the playoffs, then he's the guy for them at head coach at LSU. Brian Kelly is, but it's a make it or break it year at LSU in 2025. Do not go into 2025 and say, we believe in Brian Kelly to win a title, but 2025 is not the year. 2026 is not the year. No. It may not be the year to win it all, but it's a make it or break it year for them to go to the playoffs. Expect them and set the standard for them that they need to be a playoff team. Because in 2025, it is a make it or break it year for Brian Kelly. It is. And I'm going overboard on time, but it needs to be addressed. I mean, it's a make it or break it year. Yes, you got to have a top 5 early signing day period. Early signing day is December 4th through December 6th. And LSU's class is going to highlight the early signing period, especially with Bryce Underwood and Harlem Berry at running back and a lot of commits on the defense that they desperately need. They need to add more depth to their defense and add more depth to their offense, but they have to hit the portal up this December and hit the portal up this spring, because if they do not, 2025 is not going to be a playoff year for them. It's going to be the same year or worse that they have had this season. Expect, and this is a call out to the media, this is a call out to LSU, this is a call out to Brian Kelly, the time's it. This is your 4th year. You're going to enter your 4th year at LSU. You need to have a make it or break it year. If not, the seat's going to get warmer and warmer and warmer This is a different environment than Notre Dame. This is a different environment than Cincinnati. This is LSU. And at LSU, people expect to be in the playoffs, be in the playoff mix consistently. If you miss here or there, that's fine. But if you always miss and you are underachieving that below that mark, that's not what they want at LSU. They want to be consistently in the mix. And if the media says they believe in Brian Kelly, they would put them in the mix and consistently put them in the mix. We believe that he's going to win a title. It's just not going to happen for the next 500 years. I'm just exaggerating. No. Set the standard for them, and then LSU has to overachieve at the standard that they set. It's a make it or break it year for 2025. It really is. It really, really is. So when is it going to be their time? Who knows? But 2025 is got to be a make it or break it year with the talent that is coming in, especially at recruiting, and especially if they utilize the portal and go out and get big names through NIL. That is my problem with LSU. They shouldn't have lost this game. It is tough right now in Baton Rouge. They got to play Vandy. The only thing that caught my attention is those sick, cool alternate goal jerseys that they are wearing this Saturday night against Vanderbilt. 7:45 Eastern, 6:45 Central kick. They play Vanderbilt on SEC Network. Ole Miss and Florida are playing, and we're covering that game, by the way. But let's talk about the Frenzy rankings. But that was my rant on LSU. It is tough right now. They are struggling. Make it or break it year for 2025. That's all I got to say for LSU and for Brian Kelly at LSU. So let's talk about the Frenzy playoff rankings before we talk about the preview and predictions for Week 13 for Pigskin Frenzy. Let's talk about our Frenzy rankings and let's discuss it. Big shakeup. And my problem with the AP rankings are pretty simple. They put Georgia ahead of Ole Miss, which they shouldn't have because Ole Miss could beat Georgia. In my rankings, that ain't happening. So big shakeup in the rankings for Week 13, and it goes like this. The Frenzy College Football Playoff rankings for Week 13, our set of rankings. Here we go. 25, Syracuse. Syracuse is 7-3. I was debating on who to put at 25. And Syracuse is at 25 because I just think that they've been playing consistent ball in the ACC. They've been playing really well with Kyle McCord. Fran Brown's having a solid first year as Orange head coach. 7-3, not bad for the Cuse. They are 25 in my rankings. Number 24, Illinois at 7-3. Illinois is still back in it. They're playing good ball. 7-3. Illinois is 24. Iowa State, bounce back win this past weekend, puts them back in my rankings. 23 is Iowa State, 2-loss team there. Number 22 in the Mountain West, UNLV is 22, 8-2. They have a showdown coming up with San Jose State next. So tough game, tough game coming up Friday night against San Jose State, but they have a solid game there. Number 22 is UNLV. They are in my rankings because they are playing really, really well in the Mountain West. Tulane is 21, 8-2 in overall, and they have a solid game coming up against Army December 6th in the American Conference Championship. Let's see if they win out. Tulane is in talks of being in the college football playoff now. So let's see what Tulane does. First year under John Summerall. So good on Summerall and the Green Wave. Number 20 is South Carolina. South Carolina is 20. Excellent win over Missouri. Dramatic Hollywood finish in Columbia, South Carolina. They play Missouri close. Raheem Sanders got the go-ahead game-winning touchdown and gave them the win. South Carolina is 20 in my rankings. Number 19 is Clemson. They are number 19 after a solid win against Pittsburgh in this past Saturday in Pitt country. So number 19 is Clemson. Number 18 is Arizona State. And they are a solid football team, dangerous football team. They got BYU, 3:30 Eastern, 2:30 Central Saturday kick. And we are covering that game. Solid game coming up against BYU with playoff and Big 12 title implications coming up Saturday. Number 18 is Arizona State. They're a dangerous team. Kenny Dillingham has got them got them, ready to play each and every Saturday. Number 17, Colorado played played really, really good against Utah this past Saturday. Travis Hunter putting up Heisman stats. Number 17 is Colorado. They played really, really well. Solid football team is Colorado right now. And number 16 is BYU after a tough loss against Kansas. They're the highest ranked Big 12 team. Number 16 is BYU. One loss there. They were number 7 in my rankings. Now they're number 6 or number 8 in my number 7 to number 8 in my rankings last week if I remember correctly. Now they're number 16 after a huge loss to Kansas. So number 15, Army, 9-0. 9-0. It's going to come to a head if they beat Notre Dame this coming up Saturday in Yankee Stadium. If I put them in the 12th spot or in the top 12 Saturday. So we're going to have to see there. We're just going to have to see there. Number 12 spot could be on the line for Army this Saturday. Number 15, Army. Second team out, Texas A&M at 14. They play Auburn Saturday. Let's see if they can get a huge win there. And the first team out, number 13, is Miami. Miami is number 13. Huge game Saturday against Wake Forest. Coming off that bye, let's see if they can bounce back after that upset loss against Georgia Tech a couple of weeks ago. So let's see. Miami is 13, first team out. Number 12, Boise State. Boise State's number 12. They got a huge contest coming up. Huge contest coming up. Boise State does against Wyoming. Let's see what happens between the Army-Notre Dame game, Boise State, Wyoming, and Tulane coming up here. Boise State is number 12 right now, currently. Number 11 is Tennessee after a tough loss against Georgia. They're still in it in my rankings. They are still in it. Number 11 is Tennessee. Number 10 is Georgia. I think that loss is good. They were 13. Now they're number 10. They're back in the fold, but I think that they're number 10 right now, currently. Number 9, SMU. I think SMU is a solid football team. You could probably place them at that number 4 spot on the bye for the ACC if they win. But SMU is number 9 in the rankings. Number 8, Notre Dame. I usually put Notre Dame behind SMU, but this week I couldn't do that. I think Notre Dame played a little bit better. Notre Dame, number 8. SMU, number 9. So Notre Dame is number 8 in this week's rankings. Number 7, Ole Miss. Ole Miss, after a bye, plays Florida. So they play Florida this week. Florida, number 7. They play Florida this week. Ole Miss is number 7. They got to go to Florida this weekend. Number 7 is Ole Miss. Number 6 is Alabama. They played really, really well against Mercer. Let's see how they play against Oklahoma Saturday night. Number 6 is Alabama. Number 5 is Penn State. They played well against Purdue last weekend. Let's see how they're going to keep rolling and keep finishing here. Number 4, Indiana, 10-0, man. A showdown with Ohio State is coming up soon. Number 4 is Indiana, coming up Saturday in the shoe, showdown in the shoe. Indiana at number 4 against Ohio State coming up Saturday night, or Saturday, noon Eastern, 11 a.m. Central. Texas is number 3. Tough win against Arkansas. They are number 3. They remain the same. Number 2, Ohio State after a win against Northwestern. And then number 1, Oregon after a tough win against Wisconsin. No shakeup there. Number 1, Oregon. Number 2, Ohio State. 3 is Texas. So that is the Frenzy playoff rankings for Week 13. I will post these rankings on X and Instagram tomorrow, which is Wednesday. Go and take a look on @Pigskin_Frenzy on both accounts. These are my rankings for the Frenzy playoff rankings entering Week 13. Okay, I will post those tomorrow. Let's talk about our preview and predictions for Week 13 before we conclude our episode of Pigskin Frenzy here today. Let's kick it off with Ole Miss at Florida. Let's see our wins and losses for our top matchups this week and the games that we're covering for college this weekend. Ole Miss at Florida. Ole Miss is 8-2. Florida is 5-5. Yes, we are covering this game. I think it's going to be an underrated matchup, but Let's just see. Florida coming off of a huge win against LSU. Ole Miss coming off of a bye after a huge win against Georgia. Ole Miss is still fighting for an SEC title berth. They're still fighting for playoff hunt supremacy. They're firmly in the hunt, but they got to win out. Florida is fighting for bowl eligibility, which I think they will get. But they are continuing their momentum, and Billy Napier could not be happier. Here are the keys for Ole Miss in Gainesville this Saturday morning, noon Eastern, 11 a.m. Central. Number one, you got to protect Jackson Dart. Florida had 7 sacks against LSU and Nussmeier this past weekend. So protecting Jackson Dart is a big priority. Do not let them sack the quarterback there. Number one, protect Jackson Dart. Number two, start off fast. If you can start off fast, get this Florida Gator defense on its heels. Trey Harris is back Saturday. He's expected to play. You can start off fast by throwing it to him, letting him make some dynamic plays, and be explosive on your plays. Then you should be fine in this game Saturday. Number three, win the line of scrimmage battle. Be more physical than they are on the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball, defensive line and offensive line. If you can do that, you should come away with a win here Saturday against Florida. Here are Florida's keys to win this game Saturday. Number one, win the line of scrimmage battle. Be physical in this game. Be just as physical or outmatch their physicality in this one to pull off the upset. Get to Jackson Dart. Sack him. Get as much sacks as you can, because that comes a long way in determining the outcome of the game. Number two, force the turnovers. If you can force a turnover or two, get a couple of interceptions, get some fumbles in there, you should be fine in this ball game. That's number two. Number three, establish the running game. Florida right now is currently 75th in rushing offense in college football. The caveat to that, though, is Ole Miss is currently second in rushing defense in college football. So they got a solid rushing defense. If you can run with Jalen Ball, Montrell Johnson, or Jackson, or if you can run with Montrell Johnson, and if you can run with Jalen Ball in this game, on this defense, rushing defense, this could come a long way to determining the outcome of this football game this Saturday. So that would be a huge win for Florida if they can be able to run the ball on this solid rushing defense Saturday. That was Florida's keys. That was Ole Miss's keys just a minute ago. Who do I have winning this ball game? I think this game will be close at first. I think it's going to be close until the third quarter. I think Florida's defensive line is going to be underrated against that offensive line. However, I think that Jackson Dart's going to find a way to win this game, and Ole Miss is going to pull away in the fourth quarter late. I think it's going to be, moderately high scoring, not too much high scoring. I like Ole Miss in this one, 28-17 in this game, and they beat Florida, and I think Ole Miss gets the win pretty easily in the fourth quarter. So Ole Miss 28, Florida 17. They get the win over Florida in Gainesville. Ole Miss goes to 9-2. Florida goes to 5-6 until they play Florida State the next week. So Ole Miss 28, Florida 17. Ole Miss gets the win over Florida in Gainesville. Next up, BYU and Arizona State. BYU 9-1 at Arizona State. BYU is trying to shake off that loss to Kansas. Arizona State is trying to cause some more momentum and more chaos after defeating Kansas State last week. So momentum is being shifted. BYU could go under, and Arizona State and Colorado or anybody else could rise up in this game. Playoff hopes, Big 12 title implications are on the line in this game. Huge game in Tempe, Arizona this Saturday. BYU 9-1 at Arizona State 8-2. BYU's keys are simple. Protect the football. 2 turnovers versus Kansas. If you can protect the football and not turn the ball over against this dangerous Arizona State defense, you should be fine in this ball game. Number 2, win on third down. You weren't very hot on third down against Kansas. If you can win on third down more and capitalize on those drives, you should be fine in this game. You were 3 for 10 on third down versus Kansas. No 3 for 10 against this team. This is a more dangerous team than Kansas. If you can win on third down and capitalize on those drives, you should be fine in this game. Number 3, find a way to slow down Cam Scatterboo. Arizona State currently is 26th in rushing offense in college football. BYU is currently 67th in rushing defense in college football. The notes here, though, BYU only held Kansas to 73 rushing yards, which is pretty good. rushing yards total. That's pretty good in rushing defense. But Cam Skattebo is currently 11th in rushing in college football. So something's got to give here in this one. If you can find a way to slow down their running game and slow down Cam Skattebo, that's a big win, and you should be able to go to 10-1 on the year in this game. That is the keys for BYU. Let's talk about Arizona State's keys here. Number one, feed Cam Skattebo. If Cam Skattebo can just go off and play a lot better than he did against Kansas State, he should be finding this one. He's a bowling ball in this game. He's a bowling ball for this team. Feed Cam Skattebo and give him the ball, and you're going to have probably a huge success day if you do. Number two, force turnovers. Make them not only turn the ball over 2 times, get an extra turnover in there. Get the ball, force them some turnovers, and you have a shot at winning this ball game. Do like you did against Kansas State this past weekend. Number three, minimize those penalties. That's a big thing. 8 penalties for 65 yards. Clean up those penalties, minimize the penalties, and you should be fine in this game. Who do I have winning this ball game? BYU, Arizona State in Tempe, 3:30 Eastern, 2:30 Central kick. A lot on the line here. Who do I have winning this game? BYU's a solid football team. I think that they are starting to decline a little bit. I think they are playing Arizona State at the wrong time, especially coming off of a huge loss against Kansas. I like Arizona State to win this game. I think Arizona State is going to play a little bit. I think they've been playing a little bit better than BYU. I think they take BYU, and record doesn't mean much in this game to me. I think Arizona State's the better football team. I'm going to take Kenny Dillingham, and I think Arizona State Sun Devils find a way to pull out a win here in Tempe. Home field advantage. Give me Arizona State to defeat BYU. I got 24-10 on this one. Arizona State 24, BYU 10. Arizona State gets the win, goes to 9-2. Goes to 9-2. BYU goes to 9-2 as well. Arizona State 24, BYU 10. Arizona State defeats BYU and gets a solid home win in Tempe and puts themselves in prime position for a Big 12 championship berth and potentially college football playoff berth if they go and win the Big 12. So Arizona State defeats BYU at home in Tempe. Army at Notre Dame. Huge game here. Huge game in Yankee Stadium. So it's going to be a huge game here. Army at Notre Dame. 9-0 Army. Notre Dame is 9-1. Something's got to give here in this one. Army's keys are pretty simple, man. Number one, establish the running game. Army is currently first in rushing offense in college football. Notre Dame is currently 41st in rushing defense. Notre Dame's playoff hopes are on the line here. Army has playoff hopes on the line, and they already are in the American Conference Championship against Tulane on Friday, December 6th. So in 2 weeks, they're already in the conference championship. So if they can win out here and win by running the football, this would help their chances playoff-wise as well. So establish the running game. They are a solid running football team. Just run the ball against this team. Number two, protect the football. Two turnovers versus North Texas. If you can just protect the football in this one, you should be fine here in Yankee Stadium this coming up Saturday night. So protect the football, play clean football, and you should be fine in this one. Number three, slow down their running game. Notre Dame is currently 13th in rushing offense in college football. Army, currently second in rushing offense in college football. If you can slow down their running game and you can outgain them on the ground, this is going to be a long day for Notre Dame, and Army can have a solid win here in this one. Notre Dame's keys are pretty simple. Number one, beat them through the air. Notre Dame currently, though, is 100th in passing offense in college football. They rely more on the ground. But if you can find a way to beat them through the air as well, this should be a good game for Notre Dame, and Notre Dame can pull out a win here and go to 10-1. So this should be a good game for Notre Dame if they can find a way to beat them through the air. Number two, establish the running game and establish it with Jeremiah Love. If you can find a way to run the ball in this defense, they're currently number 3 in rushing defense. Ole Miss is currently number 2 in rushing defense. Or they're tied as far as I know. But if you can find a way to run the ball on this tough Army rushing defense, you have a shot at winning this ball game. I really do believe that. It's a running battle, man. It's a running battle with this team. Number 3, win the line of scrimmage battle. Be more physical than they are. If you're more physical than this team is, you have a shot at winning this ball game, and it could be a good win for you guys to play a tough Army team and win on both sides of the ball. Who do I got winning this ball game, Army or Notre Dame? Well, I think this is a huge battle. You can think, okay, just like Navy earlier in the season, Notre Dame destroyed them. Army hadn't played much. And you're right. Army has not played a whole lot of good teams. They're playing a good team Saturday in Notre Dame, independent Power 4 team. However, they turn the ball. I think they do turn the ball over, but I think they're more protected of the football than Navy is. I think that Notre Dame's got some good rushers on their team. I think they're a physical team. I think Army's more physical than Navy. I think they're a better running football team than Navy, and Navy ran the ball on Notre Dame pretty well. I'm going all in. Everyone says that this is a roll the dice episode. I'm going all in. Give me Army to defeat Notre Dame Saturday to knock them out of the playoff race. Army wins to go to 10-0. They beat Notre Dame 28-21 Saturday night in Yankee Stadium. Army 28, Notre Dame 21. I got Army beating Notre Dame, pulling off the upset and going to 10-0 and beating Notre Dame to solidify themselves in playoff talks and honestly solidify themselves even further, in that American Conference. 28-21, Army defeats Notre Dame and upsets them in Yankee Stadium. Notre Dame goes to 9-2. Army goes to 10-0. Army defeats Notre Dame in a huge upset Saturday night. Last game before we conclude today's episode of Pigskin Frenzy, Indiana at Ohio State. I've been waiting for this game for so long. I'm so glad this game turned out the way it did. 10-0 Indiana at Ohio State, 9-1. Kirk Cignetti is coming off of a bye. 10-0 has this team ready to play off of the defending national champions. They just defeated the defending national champion in Michigan. Huge win for Indiana. They are a solid team. I really, really am looking forward to this game. First one off the bat, Indiana at Ohio State coming up in the shoe Saturday. Indiana's keys are simple. This is a Big Ten championship berth game and a Big 12 and a college football playoff berth game here. Who's going to play Oregon in the Big Ten championship is what I am seeing in this one. Number 1 for Indiana. Indiana's keys are simple. Number 1, slow down their running game. Ohio State currently is 40th in rushing offense in college football. However, Indiana, caveat to this, is first in rushing defense in college football. They are first in rushing defense. They are the best team at slowing down the run. If they can slow them down, make them one-dimensional, and play defense off of that, they have a shot at upsetting Ohio State because Ohio State's a 10.5-point favorite in the shoe Saturday. Number 2, start off fast and get this Ohio State's defense on its heels a little bit. If you can start off fast, it's Curtis Rourke at quarterback. If Curtis Rourke at quarterback can start off fast and get this team off the ground there, they're going to be fine. Right? They're going to be fine on offense with Rourke and Cignetti on offense. So, number 2, start off fast. Number 3, win the time of possession battle. Hold on to the ball. Make sure that offense has limited amount of time and possessions in this game, and you should beat them and win this game this Saturday afternoon. Ohio State's keys are simple. Number 1, you got to win on third down. 4 for 10 on third down versus Northwestern. If you can win on third down, be more competitive, convert on third down, you should be fine in this ball game. Number 1, win on third down. Number 2, find a way to run the ball on their defense. If you can find a way to run their ball on that defense, you should have a pretty good shot and chance at winning this ball game because those are some good backs you got, Henderson and Judkins. If you can run the ball on this solid defense, you got a shot at winning this game. And number 3, if not, beat them through the air, man. If you can beat them through the air effectively, if you can't run the ball on them, if you can beat them through the air effectively, you have a shot at winning this ball game this Saturday in the shoe in Columbus, Ohio. So that's pretty much the keys for Ohio State. That was the keys for Indiana. Who do I have winning this ball game? I think this game's going to come down to the wire. I think that 10.5 points to me is a very, very disrespectful betting line for Ohio State, or for Indiana. Very disrespectful betting line. I think it's going to come down to the wire. I think Ohio State's going to be in it until the end. However, I think Indiana's defense is going to pull through, and Indiana's going to capitalize on some stuff. And also stuff, they're going to capitalize on some drives, and they are going to slow down that running game. And the Hoosiers are going to find a way to pull off the upset and get the win in Columbus. I'm going all in. I'm picking Indiana to go to 11-0 and beat Ohio State in this game Saturday. Indiana 24, Ohio State 17. Indiana 24, Ohio State 17. Indiana goes to 11-0 and goes to the Big Ten Championship to face Oregon in Indianapolis, Indiana in 2 weeks. Indiana 24, Ohio State 17. Indiana pulls off the upset and gets the win over Ohio State and clinches a Big Ten Championship spot in 2 weeks. Indiana gets the win in a showdown in the shoe against Ohio State. That just about does it for Pigskin Frenzy. That was my Week 13 preview predictions. A big thank you for taking some time out of your Tuesday to just sit back, watch, and listen to some college football coverage presented by me. Now, if you're watching on YouTube, subscribe to the channel, like each episode, leave comments down below. Spotify, Podbean, and Apple, all you got to do is just share around with others and follow on there as well. X and Instagram, at Pigskin_Frenzy. Follow a lot of the pages there. You're going to get episode updates, news and highlights from across college and NFL football. You're going to get trivia questions on Instagram stories, going to answer today's college football question, as well as all things up to date for Pigskin Frenzy. Guys, the website, www.pigskinfrenzy.weebly.com. All episode updates and all things updating coming soon to that website. Big thank you for taking some time out of your Tuesday to just sit back, watch, and listen to some college football coverage. Guys, we will be back Thursday for an NFL edition of Pigskin Frenzy Week 11 recap. We're going to preview and predict the top matchups for Week 12 as well. We're also going to see who's in and who's out with the Pigskin Frenzy NFL injury report. Until Thursday's edition of NFL edition of Pigskin Frenzy on Thursday, I'm Joel Norris signing off. We will see you then. For everybody out there, please and always stay warm and stay the course.